helplessness. Oh God, how I need you. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I worship Your holy name. The sun comes up. It's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Draws near and my time has come. Still my soul will sing Your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. Worship Your holy name. Worship Your holy name. Lord, I come, I confess, bowing here, I find my rest. Without You, I fall apart. You're the one that guides my heart. Lord, I need You, oh, I need I'll fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship His holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. Worship Your holy name. The sun comes.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today for Follow Your Faith. On my right is Todd Hillegass, who was very graciously able to join us tonight. On my far right is Marty. He's here with us. Thank God you're here, Marty, with us tonight. Jerry's off to my left, and then Steve is way over there in the corner, kind of controlling everything. So thank you very much, folks, for joining us. I think there's a lot here to talk about tonight. I think there's a lot for us to unpack, and let's get right at it. Let's pray together first, and then I'll turn everything over to Marty. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly Father, we talked a lot today about the cross, about we're not going to escape it in our lives, and we have a choice whether we choose to pick it up and accept it or to run away from it. And oftentimes running away, maybe most of the time, it just ends up in total disaster for us. But we need encouragement. We need your grace. We need your community to help us, encourage us to continue the journey of faith. So bless us and continue to offer us that new life that you promise as we continue our journey of faith with and through you. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks, everybody. Welcome. Good morning. Glad you're here. And how was your picnic today?
The picnic was great. My son smoked brisket and salmon. And if you have on a smoker, if you cook it that way, and there was almost a point where I was thinking maybe I won't come here today. I'm just gonna. I was late arriving, but no, I wouldn't miss it.
Yeah.
No, it was good. It was good, and I am too looking forward to this. I think we all are going to learn. I don't like the phrase "learn a lesson," but we're going to learn about the power of faith. And this gentleman to my left, those of you that go to Omos, you may know him. He is a parishioner here, but that's really not why he's here. Made it possible for us to get him here because that's our connection. But I think the easiest way for like I said, some of us know you. I would gather to say, or hazard to say, a lot don't. So I want to know, who is Todd Hillegass? Not your story, but who's Todd the man?
Yeah. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate being asked to come here this evening. I would say, Marty, that question we talked a little bit before. You were going to ask, who is Todd Hillegass? And I'm sitting here almost 52. I would answer that question certainly differently now than I would have years ago. Maybe previously I'd have talked about my tribe, my immediate family, my Catholic faith. As I've, in the 20s and 30s, that may have changed. who is Todd Hillegass? Where are you at with a family, career, etc. And then in my 40s, I would say I hit a bit of a brick wall in life, a challenging time with really being able to tell you who Todd Hillegass is. Struggle with some things, with really knowing what I was going to be doing with life, right? And so I would say, sitting here now, I do have to tell a little bit of a story to help tell you who I am. So, and let me start with what happened to me just a couple weeks ago. I went for a 10-mile bike ride. And if I can paint a picture where I live, my wife and I, Heidi, and our kids, we live in Fishertown. And where we live, the ridge behind our house is absolutely beautiful. It's amongst the orchards, ridgetop orchards, hundreds of acres of orchards.
For those that don't know, Fishertown is the bottom of 56 in Bedford County.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with Pleasantville, and if you know where Chestnut Ridge High School is,
there
that
you go.
area,
That area,
so
there
that
you
you so that you have a frame here. Yeah, yes, he's a member of OMOS. Yes, he drives every week from Fishertown. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that was good. Fair. So I decided to go for the bike ride. It's an area where my wife and I have walked a lot over the years. It's a beautiful ride, a little short jaunt through the woods and then to a township road. And you get to the top of the ridge, it's about 3/4 of a mile. And there, it's, to my opinion, probably one of the most beautiful scenic areas in all of Pennsylvania. At the top, I can look west, I see Pleasantville Mountain. I go clockwise to the north, I see Sproul Mountain, then Brumbaugh, Evitts Mountain. I keep coming south, you see Wills Mountain that goes to Cumberland, and then you see Schaefer Mountain where 30 comes down and where the old Ship Hotel was. Anyway, I get up there and I ride out about 5 miles and then come back. Beautiful day, much like today. And so you may be thinking like, oh, okay, so what? Big deal. Let me just show you something. I have this, and that's an amputated, that's a prosthesis.
Put it up here.
Yeah, I had my leg amputated on July 7th of last year. And so almost a year ago, I received this leg. And so I'm sharing this with you. I went on that bike ride, and I think a lot of it is a result of my faith, persevering through that to get to this point,
Right.
of being able to go on that bike ride. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
But that's what you have to wear,
Yeah.
that prosthetic,
Yes.
to be able to ride your bike.
Yeah.
And you're trail riding for a lot of it.
Yeah, it's rails of trails. It's a dirt road.
But I mean, you're doing something that some of us with two good legs may not be willing to try.
Yeah, possibly. But it's something I've always done prior to the amputation, and it's something that I wanted to do. And so that journey that got me to that point, I really have to start. So to answer the question, who is Todd Hillegass? With my faith, I would start back in 1980.
Okay.
So it started in 1980 for Father and you, Marty, if being Western PA, Steelers fans, you may recall that was the year the Steelers were going for one for the thumb. And I was 9 years old then. I had developed a benign tumor in my right knee, behind my right knee, required surgery. And I had my first Christmas miracle that year. I had the surgery in early December, a biopsy. And the doctor called on Christmas Eve. I remember Dad answering the phone, and he says it's benign. It's a desmoid tumor, non-cancerous. Big sigh of relief. I had the follow-up surgery at Children's Hospital a month or two later. Removed the tumor, and no expectation that my life would be any different at that point in time. I had follow-up appointments. 2 years later, I had to have surgery a second time. And this time it was more of a specialist at Children's, and he deduced that afterwards I should have radiation treatments. So at that time, this area here out in Johnstown.
How old are you? You're still 9?
11.
11. Okay.
Yeah, 11. And so I had to have radiation on my right knee, and I had to go to Pittsburgh for the first 7 or 10. The hospitals here were hesitant to perform radiation on a kid. But Children's did the first 7 to 10, and then Lee, I came here for the last, I think I had 40 to 45 total. And the one thing I remember as far as faith is concerned, then is there was a brother I went to St. John the Baptist in New Baltimore, my home parish. There's a brother, his name's Brother Bill. He had close friends in Pittsburgh that we stayed with. So the community aspect of like
St. John's, we might as well say, it was a novitiate, and it was run by the Carmelite fathers back in the day.
Yes.
So he's a Carmelite brother. Yes.
He's a Carmelite brother.
Yes.
And he had good friends in Pittsburgh. They stay. So I think that's already starting to show us the faith community that I belonged in was taking care of me, and certainly an overwhelming amount of prayers at that time as an 11-year-old. So I had the radiation, thinking it's going to be taken care of. Fast forward 2 years, I'm 13, and it comes back. This time it's further up the trunk of my leg, and I have to have surgery again to remove it. And I remember that whenever I was 11, the oncologist said to me, hey, 99.95% chance that tumor won't come back. So somebody gives you those kind of stats. If you were given those stats to win the lottery, you'd probably go buy the ticket, right? You'd feel pretty confident. What came back? And I remember saying to my surgeon, hey, as a kid, I was 13 now, because 2 years later it comes back. And I tell him this, and he was just a super, super person. He said, I would never give you a statistic. He said, because figures lie and liars figure, is what he stood. And I remember that. And he removed the tumor this time, and it did not have to have radiation. Unfortunately, it comes back again 2 years later. Whenever I'm 15. So at 13, I could no longer play football anymore. That ended me participating in that sport. And then at 15, came back in my knee and closer to my hip. Removed it again. They've removed one of my hamstrings. I had to have radiation treatments twice, or a second time on my knee, and then a first time on my hip. And my leg then becomes, it's 2.5 inches shorter than my left. So I had to deal with that, until really the amputation a year ago. The impact of having.
What was it like going through high school and college with that?
It was challenging. I think as a youth, somebody that really wanted to partake in sports, I really liked sports. I was certainly at a disadvantage. I definitely was, but I don't really remember saying why me, or why is this happening, or being like not wanting to try. I still tried. I still played.
I remember playing volleyball with you.
Yeah,
Back
playing volleyball.
day,
I just really liked to participate.
Yeah.
I just never gave up. I didn't stop playing, and partaking in things. So I think sometimes with that, I remember I was in college. I went to a school with a guy who I played against at Claysburg, and he came up to me, and it made me feel good. He said, I remember our coach, after we played you guys, come up to us, or told us in the locker room afterwards, said, hey, you have nothing to complain about. Though I was a hustler. I played hard. I wasn't that talented, but I played hard, and he was just complimentary of me, of not giving up and persevering through it.
I'm curious. I read the story that you shared with us, and as you just said, you never got to the why me stage. I'm sorry. I don't. I'm trying to. I'm trying to take in everything that happened to you, and I can't. It just seemed to me at some point it would be like, because it kept happening.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that you'd be. I mean, I've had things go on in my own health and in my family, and at some point, be okay, God. We got to have a little talk here. I always said that God will, the old saying about God will only give you what you can handle. And I said, if I do ever get face to face, we're going to talk about that.
Sure.
I want to say you could have shared it with some other people, but never, ever, ever questioned why it was happening.
I don't recall, at least as a youth, thinking that way. I'm not saying that that I didn't have days that I struggled with it, and I would be angry, I had to have my shoes built up. So I had to have a shoe put 2 inches on the outside, or an inch and a half on the outside of my shoe, just so I wouldn't walk uneven. And as a result of it, I had to go to the chiropractor probably on average once a month since then. But I just don't recall really thinking. I'm not people that know me, my wife and my kids. It's not that I never complained about it or anything. People close to me, I'm not certainly not trying to paint a picture that it wasn't a problem, but I don't remember ever asking the why me.
Did you were you bullied at school because of your?
No. I never had that. I never remember being treated any differently whatsoever. With that, never. I had some coaches that were just super and good to me. So no, Scruff, my basketball coach, Steve Wise, a really excellent guy, good to me. But, yeah.
Good.
Did the doctors ever say to you, "We're not really sure why this is happening"?
Yeah, I never really got an answer. We never received an answer as to why I had desmoid tumors or what the reason was. The only thing that really they thought may have happened was it was tied to my growth spurts. So 9, 11, 13, and 15,
Sure.
it seemed like whenever I would go through a growth spurt, then it may have came back. But thankfully, it never came back after 15. And so then that relatively healthy, I would go to checkups for the first few years annually, and then every 5 years. And then 2 years ago, I developed a blood clot in my right leg, from the middle of my leg the whole way down. And I was in the hospital for 5 days for that in the ICU. And I want to say, as a kid, prayer was very, very important. The faith formation that I received from my parents, going to St. Thomas grade school, was critical. It was important. And I can remember being prayed for by my aunt Helen, praying for me, because I was terrified of needles as a kid. It was the worst. I'd rather have anything done. I remember laying one time in pain in Children's Hospital, not wanting the nurse to know, because I knew she was going to come in and give me a needle to relieve the pain. I'd rather be dealing with the pain, but she realized, and I had to have it. But my aunt's prayer was for me to accept and have the courage to face those needles. And I remember thinking not long ago that prayer wasn't answered really till 35 years later, because whenever I was in the hospital last year, they were nothing like they were whenever I was a kid. So you never know when prayers are answered. And I would say to people watching, don't ever quit praying for somebody. It may not be answered in the time that you think it is, and it may not be answered in the way you want it to be answered, but it's heard. I'll talk even a little bit more about that.
Take us to June of 2020.
So that June 2021, that's when I had the blood clot. Had to go in and was in the ICU a few days. Went in 3 times with the clot buster medicines, and ultimately removed it. And I came out of that pretty good. I felt pretty good. I got back to walking a lot. But then January of last year, I developed a small wound, an open wound behind my right knee, where I had an incision from my childhood surgeries, and it kept progressing to the point that I had to have plastic surgery right before Memorial Day of last year, 2022. And it went bad. Ended up having an infection. The doctor admitted that it failed. I was referred to another plastic surgeon in Oakland. I was at Montefiore. And 5 surgeries later, it became apparent that I had to have the amputation.
5 surgery. At no point prior to that did anybody talk about amputation, I'm assuming.
No.
Because we got the tumor, we got the next tumor, we got the next tumor, we're good, it's not coming back, it never got to that point in terms of what you anticipated for your futures.
Right. Never really crossed my mind. And I can remember laying in the hospital in 2021 when I had the clot, saying to the vascular surgeon, I want to walk my daughter down the aisle someday. I want you to save my leg. Right. I remember saying that to him, and I said it again last year too. So after the 3rd surgery last year, where they would go in and clean it out, and I was put on an antibiotic.
Probably a million of them.
Yeah, a bunch of them. The chief of plastic performed this one surgery, and he comes into me, and I remember being in the pre-op, laying there, and he comes in and he puts his forehead right against mine. I mean, right against mine. And he says to me, he said, "What questions can I answer for you?" And he backs away. And I said, "Come back here." I leaned up and I put my forehead right against his. And I said, when the heck am I getting out of here? And he said, well, we're going to have some more discussions. And so he did the surgery. What they would do would go in, they would take samples, check it and see if I still had the infection. And so on July the 3rd, Monday was the 4th, Sunday was the 3rd, he came in, we had a lengthy discussion. And I point blank asked him, I said, if you were me, what would you do? And he said, I love being a plastic surgeon. 1 year from now, if I were you, I'd have the surgery, I'd have the amputation, and a year from now, I'd be doing plastic surgery again. And what helped me to get to that decision, though, I think is what's crucial, right? What helped me to say, I agree with you, and I'm going to do it, is crucial. Right before that surgery, that third surgery, the day before, my wife and my mother-in-law, Lana, were visiting me, and I'm laying in the bed, and I can't see the exit, but I see my wife motioning for somebody to come in, and I'm like, who's that? And she motioned for him again, come in. Well, it was the priest assigned to the hospital. He came in to give me communion. Now, why is that important? The night before, I laid in bed, and I had slept pretty good in the hospital. I was in last year for the amputation, 21 days. The night before, I had slept really well. I mean, up until the night before, I had been sleeping fairly well in the hospital. I laid there the night before. I just couldn't sleep. And I remember thinking about the Eucharist. And I don't know if I laid there and thought about the Eucharist for 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. I don't know. I remember thinking the Gospel of John, the bread of life discourse. And the next day, the priest comes and gives me the Eucharist. That wasn't a coincidence. That was God strengthening my faith, giving me courage without question to say yes to the amputation. And I like stories. And the only thing that I can equate that to is a guy is walking along a cliff, falls over the cliff, and on his way down, a tree's hanging up. Grabs hold of that branch, and he's hanging there for dear life, and the only thing he can do is pray out to God, help me, save me. There's nobody else around. And he hears a voice that, I will help you. And the guy says, is that you, God? And he hears it from up above the cliff, and he says, yes, this is me. This is God. And he said, well, help me. Please pull me up. God says, let go. And he responds, said, is there anybody else up there? Well, I felt like that, right? And so I think that the Eucharist, and I can't thank enough our prayer ministry team and so many people. I hate to even just call out one or two people that strengthened me for that, Marty. I really do. Father, I know how much you prayed for me, you and the whole parish and St. John's parish, my brother and sister's parish that are in Frederick and Oxford. It was just difficult.
So, and one of your questions, Marty, was did you get prayer?
Yeah.
Did you get prayer for your
what
prayer
about
ministry?
the prayer? Were you prayed over?
Yeah, and so just a huge kudos and shout out to our prayer ministry folks. And I'm gonna single out a couple of people who I know don't like it, but Karen Wood and Joe Herbal. The one morning before I was going into surgery, I think they had went to mass at the cathedral downtown, and they called me from there. And before I go into surgery, they pray over me virtually, and Karen had prayed over me multiple times. So I was absolutely prayed over, and it was truly a blessing and something that strengthened my courage muscle.
People, and I've been prayed over. I remember the first time, and I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it's just something that, and I didn't go into it at any. That's happened 3 times, I think, and I didn't go into it expecting anything. The first time it was friends of ours, and we went up to Good Shepherd, where Father Charlie Amershak was the pastor, and our friends were good friends with Charlie. And when I was diagnosed with cancer, the lady said, well, we're going to go up. Charlie's group wants to pray over you. And I went, okay, I'll be a nice neighbor, and we'll get in the car and we'll drive up there. And I'm not trying to I'm not trying to make fun of it, but I'm thinking, okay, what could
Yeah.
possibly happen? There's a bunch
Yeah.
of people that are going to come around. And I did say, is this like Benny Hinn? Am I going to be healed? You know,
Right.
somebody going to reach out to me and I'm going to fall to the floor and then I'm going to get, and I wasn't trying to be funny, but it's like, that's the only thing I knew about
Sure. Right.
prayer
Yeah.
healing, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's happened 3 times. I don't, my whole professional career as a wordsmith, that's what I did. Words is my business.
Yeah.
I don't have the words to describe what that feeling is. It's just, and one time it happened, he was nearby, and I walked over to him after it happened, and he had a little grin on his face.
Remember that one? Yeah.
And he said, "How about that Holy Spirit?" I went, "Okay." But I mean, for people that have never had it done, it's easy for people to listen and say, "Okay, so you had some people pray over you, but you still lost your leg." And I'm not trying to be, people say, "Well, could that do you?"
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it, though, isn't there? That you feel within you.
Yeah.
That maybe I'd like you to share so people get a sense of
Yeah.
why that's important to our being who we are.
Yeah, and you're right. The wordsmith part and putting it into words is, I think, really a challenge. But you said that some people say, "Well, why would I be prayed over?" I would come back and say, "Well, why not?" Really, I mean, that would be my answer to my question to their question would be, "Why not?" What's the worst thing that can happen? Right?
Yeah, there's nothing to fear.
And there's nothing to fear. Yeah, there's nothing to fear.
But were you healed?
Yes,
Because that's going to be the other question from the folks that are going, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about this." You still lost your leg.
I still lost my leg.
Right.
Was what was my hope? What I wanted to see healed. Would I love to jumped out of that bed, ripped off the IVs, put on my
They
shoes,
walked out of there
and
with they
walked
ran
out.
home.
That's what I wanted to do. Right. That was what I wanted from God.
Isn't it interesting how God never seems to answer the prayers exactly as we have in mind?
No. And but I can sit here too then and say that prayer was answered differently. Would I be sitting here right now talking and if it hadn't happened? No, I wouldn't be. That's one. The other one is I really looking at the end of life was reached for my leg. Let's face it. I mean, I could face it, the medical facts with it. My knee had been radiated 90 times between 2 different. So, I mean, he's the one blaster. So basically, we went in. The ligaments were like goo, for lack of a better word. And I had my foot. I could no longer move it. So I was going to be like Captain Hook. Okay, that's so. God, I think, led me to have the courage to still say yes. And you know what? I am going to still get to walk my daughter down the aisle someday.
Yes, you are. Now, I'm not going to go too far ahead here, but I remember we have post yet? Post amputation.
Post amputation.
All right, okay, all right. Which I think is the important part for a lot of folks for us to talk about with that. Now, of course, we have some other things to talk about with that. But I remember a bunch of folks. I didn't even knew you, Todd. Of course, they probably knew through Casillo and things like that,
Yeah.
But coming down to your house and praying for you.
Yes.
And how often does that happen?
Well, my small group.
Your small group. Small group. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good segue. I mean, that's a good segue.
Yeah, small
group. I did not have small group and just until about 2 years ago.
Gosh, I didn't know I was talking about small groups today at Mass. All of a sudden, you bring up small group as being one of those things that has sustained you. Go
So
ahead.
the group of fellas that I'm in the small group with, they came and visited me shortly after I got home from the amputation. Dr. Jim Rodella's in the group. He came and visited me while I was in the hospital. Just the unbelievable outpouring of messages, well wishes, prayers. But the small group too was a huge one, and they really helped to strengthen me and encourage me and support me. I mean, I can't say enough good. And then being prayed over piece of it, I had gone and been prayed over multiple times before I had the surgery. And again, I just truly believe that helped to strengthen me and give me the courage to make that decision. And that also helped my wife, who she had to go through an incredible amount.
Well, so Heidi, why don't you give us a little text here and let us know what's going on with your world there? I mean, what were you thinking about all this? We would love to hear a little bit about your thoughts. So I want to take in Marty's place here, but 1 second, I just want to.
No, please go.
So we talk about deciding to do it. You decided to do it. You act like you decided to have a hamburger versus a hot dog.
Yep.
So what do you mean you decided to do it? What kill us?
Well, when the doctor, the chief of plastic came in on, it was Sunday, July 3rd, because the 4th was on a Monday last year. And he came in, and Heidi drove down to Montefiore, and he came in to have a discussion. And that's when I point blank asked him, what would you do if you were in the bed here right now? What would you do if you were me? And so when he left, we certainly prayed about it. We talked about it. I was staring at many, many more surgeries to just get to the point where the leg would be healed. And that would even include where they may have to take a muscle out of my good leg and skin from my good leg. And it just felt like it was never ending. And I'm like day 17 or so into it. And after having 4 or 5 surgeries there, you're to the point like this is becoming not an option between a hamburger and a hot dog.
Okay. So it's more than that.
Yeah.
Was it ever, you say Heidi was on board? Was she encouraging, or was she, it's your leg, I love you, I'll stand by you, I'll be here. Yeah, no pun intended. But I mean,
Yeah.
or was it a mutual thing, do you think? Or
Was she angry?
No, I don't think she was angry. No, I don't think she was angry about it. She was just really, really supportive. And I don't recall the exact words, but to the effect of, okay, when I said, I think this is the path that I have to go, she was on board. She was like, yeah, I think so too. And we will get through this. Right? It was very much about we getting through, because I know this was going to be a huge impact to her, and it still is.
take me to the moments right before you go under the anesthetic when they're going to remove the leg. What were you thinking at that moment? And what did you say to God at that moment?
Well, the week prior, my kids were away on vacation with my parents. So they got to come. They were back, and they came. Noah and Izzy. Jonah.
You couldn't go.
Yeah, Heidi and I couldn't. She may have been angry about not being able to go on vacation, and I don't blame her. I was too.
Okay.
But the kids came, and my parents actually came down that morning as well. And the thing that was really odd, Marty, was the surgeon shows up to do the surgery. I had never seen him before. I'm like,
You had never met him?
Yeah, I'm like,
So this guy is going to remove your leg and you don't know
Yes.
who it is?
Yeah, I did.
Oh.
Yeah, he was the plastic, but I knew the
I know, but
vascular.
still, I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, we were like, but the lead was in between, I guess, the different operating rooms. There's multiple surgeries going on, but the vascular team was absolutely there that I'd been dealing with.
Okay.
And the orthopedic. So there's multiple, but he was the lead one that's signing off. So that was a little challenging, but it wasn't like I was going to get on Google and check him out to see if he's good
at that
with
point,
his
at that point.
credentials, but I was very satisfied with him.
So,
How you feel though about that? Right, it's right before.
yeah.
I was, dang, I don't want to have to deal with this. I'm ready to go forward. And was this a curveball? It was a strange one. The day before the surgery, I had not really mourned it. Right? I did not mourn my leg. And I think you said to me, look, you're losing a part of yourself, right? This is, I don't, it's almost like cutting a part of your soul too. I don't remember exactly how you said it, but the day before I went into they have like an area. It's really a nice open area for patients to go and sit, a lot of plants and stuff. And I sat there by myself, thought I was going to be alone for the day. Fortunately, my good friend and cousin Chris Glessner shows up, and my wife too, out unexpectedly. And I was sitting there, and I allowed myself to mourn it. It was a struggle. It wasn't easy, and I allowed myself. I just sat down and I broke down and I cried. And and sobbed and was just allowed myself to be sorrowful and allowed myself to be sad for a little bit there. I hadn't done that.
That might have been a time that you might have wanted to think about blaming God. And I'm just curious because you
Yeah.
get that moment like, okay, what more do you, I've done everything you've asked me to do. And
Yeah.
now here I am, and I'm about to lose this important part of me. You didn't?
I just don't remember. I don't know. That's just maybe part of my DNA, and I just don't remember that. I was more along the lines of, help me, just help me get through.
And that's the
this.
point I wanted to make. I'm not saying that you should have had that feeling,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
there was more to it. The relationship that you have
Yeah.
with Jesus Christ, with it's not it's not superficial. I mean,
Right.
I know you, but I don't know you. I've learned
Yeah.
a lot about you in the last 26 minutes, 27 minutes.
Yeah.
33 minutes. Sorry, I can't even add. Sorry, Father looked right away. He goes, "Wait a minute, is your clock?" You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Courage is like it's a word. We all know it, but it's like that wasn't what this was about, right? You felt you were in the place you were supposed to be if you were in his hands, and you had turned it over to him.
Yeah. I think what helped me to get to that point was some of the things that I said, and my faith journey to from a kid up until that point. The last number of years, one of the things that I've developed with certainly spiritual guidance from Father is I have to have a daily routine. What do you call horarium?
Horarium, yes.
Horarium. Sorry, yeah.
Horarium.
A horarium, and that
Or a rule of life for those who just took the emotionally
healthy spirituality.
yeah, help me. The author of the emotionally healthy spirituality called it a rule of life. You have a rule of life.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that rule of life, for me, it's centering prayer every morning, reading the daily readings and reading a homily from like Bishop Barron or somebody, and then spending quiet time. It's essential. It's essential for me. Life doesn't make sense. And I really think that, along with all the other things I've shared, help me to traverse that. Now, the piece of me calling out for help, going into the next phase of it, that was a different challenge.
Yeah,
right? A different
we're talking about the prosthetics. You get to the
Yeah.
point, the leg has been amputated. Now it's post-amputation. What are we going to do?
Yes.
Right? Which you probably knew something about, but really your focus was on what was happening at the
Right.
moment. So you probably didn't think a lot about that. But
Right.
now there you are.
Yeah, and
And
I
you said that was a bigger challenge, maybe.
that was a challenge, certainly a challenge as well. I don't know if I can equate them,
But it was a big challenge.
Yeah.
It wasn't an easy. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to go in. They're
Yeah.
going to snap on my new leg, and I'll be
Oh,
done.
I know it wasn't anything like that.
Yeah, right. So Tuesday, the 5th, I have to tell them I'm supposed to go in and have another clean out surgery. Tuesday, July 5th, another clean out surgery. And Heidi and I, we both come to the conclusion that it's time to have the amputation. So I cancel that. And then the amputation is scheduled for July the 7th, Thursday, July the 7th. And those next 2 days, I have a bunch of people coming in talking to me about prosthetics. And now I'm starting to think about that. So I think that helps me actually thinking about what's next. Like, not woe is me. I'm going to be, I'm going to be disabled. I'm not going to be able to do things. So starting to hear all the advances in prosthetics. And my leg, I charge it every night. It has a hydraulic in it. It's certainly not the same as a normal leg, but it's been pretty good. But getting that helped, and then the the healing part for the wound itself had to take place, and I was thrown a little bit of a curveball there. It's funny looking back, and kind of as par for the course, so to speak. I had the wound wasn't healing completely. They ended up leaving a staple, and so it didn't heal. So it had to be fully healed before I could get the prosthesis. So I was thinking I was going to get it in early October. Didn't happen until November, but I finally get it. I finally got it in November.
But when you get it, it's not as simple as just pulling it on, right?
No.
Tell that story.
Yeah, I would say that anybody that's gone through PT
And there might be some folks watching that have gone through this.
Yeah, maybe you've gone through this. The first day I go there, once they've fitted me for the leg.
If anybody has any questions for Todd, you need to ask them, folks. I know you're like probably just listen, like I am, just listening. But if you have any questions, just jump in there. Come on.
And the best questions I get are from little kids. They are mesmerized by the leg. And I would say this, I can tell parents of little kids, they like get all upset with the kids, like, don't ask. It's like,
I know.
I'm like, don't worry about it. Like, I don't care. I love whenever kids come up and ask the question of what's going on. And I tell them. So with the first step of the prosthetic, I go to the first day, and I see a younger lady there. She's in the same situation me, and she's like walking forward and back, and I'm still on crutches with it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'll never get to that. I'm starting to question myself. Like, I'll never get. And I said to the physical therapist, I said, like, how long has she been doing this? Please tell me it's been more than just like a couple of weeks. Cause she's a pro at, with her prosthesis. She goes, don't worry. She's been doing this for a little while. So it was about persevering. And I say this jokingly, but if you don't learn to really dislike your therapist, he's probably not pushing you hard. And at least if you're watching, you're awesome. You're an awesome.
Just to say, Jerry,
Heidi chimed in here. This is nice. The journey has been long and hard. This is Todd's wife, Heidi. Seeing Todd in pain and suffering was really hard, but I knew we would get through it together. The triangle of marriage, Christ, Todd, and I. That's beautiful.
Very nice. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. Thanks, hon.
So back to the prosthetic. You're. How do they do that? I mean, do you get to pick? I'm not trying to make light of it, but
no, you're right. Yeah.
Do you get to pick what you're gonna be wearing, or do you get input? Did you pray for the right to get the right? I mean, were there doubts like, what if this doesn't work? What do I do then?
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm trying to imagine my own mind. Okay, if I lost my leg, what do I do now?
That's a really good question. So what they do, they kind of give you like an analysis of what activities. They ask you what activities you want to partake in.
What'd you tell them?
I said, really,
other than walking your daughter down the aisle, we already know that one.
Yeah. The other one, I said, I just really want to be able to go back to walking that ridge with my wife. That's really the big one. They're like, that's not a problem.
Biking? Did you mention biking?
I hadn't thought of biking at the time. I really hadn't, but it was more about the walking and maybe even jogging again someday. I had thought about the biking, so what they do an analysis. They ask you the questions. They do some like strength testing of you to see where you're at. Because believe it or not, if it wasn't for diabetes, they told me there wouldn't really be a prosthetics. There would be a next to no need for it. Only 3 to 5% they shared come from armed services. The majority of prosthetics are a result of diabetics. And so they ask the questions, and then they give you a rating between a 1 and a 5 of where you could be. A 5 would be a Paralympian. That's not me. All right. But I wasn't a 1. I was like a 3 or a 4. So that dictates what type of a leg you can get. So I got a leg that is a microprocessor. It has different modes to it. I can set a cycling mode to it. It's normally always in walking.
Kidding. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I have a Bluetooth. I have on my phone. I have an app that I connect to it and checks the power levels. And I'm able to do some changes to the resistance. So like going down steps, there's a hydraulic in it that I can actually change the resistance. And this past week, I was out to see the doctor in Oakland, and they drastically changed the resistance because I felt like I wasn't able to go downstairs as fast enough. So going back to your point, there's a whole different level of prosthetics that you can get, and it's largely dictated by really what you want to do, right? What you really want to push to be able to do.
What else do you want to do?
That's the big ones. I really wanted to be able to walk. I want to be able to walk a little faster. I would like to be able to get to jogging.
I got a question. I just interrupt you. Now, you, as I said today, like at Mass, you got two choices. You can reject your struggle, or you can accept it. You can undergo your suffering, your cross, or you can run away from it. Do you ever feel like running away?
Yeah. I felt like running away.
Do you still feel like running away? Do you have moments like that?
Yeah, I think I do. Yeah, I have moments where when I can't get the leg on as fast as I want it to, right? It
How long does it take you? Put it on.
It doesn't take real long, couple of minutes, but they're gonna make an adjustment. So like they're gonna drill a hole so I can like guide it in to the hole because it's a suction, but there's a pin that goes down in and it clicks in, and then I can then use a screwdriver to tighten it a little bit. But some days it's harder than others, and
Talk about Heidi. Do you ever feel like running? Just curious. Do you ever feel like running? But just want you to talk about the difference between those two.
I think running is, failing to face it, right? Not facing it, stepping away from it, maybe just laying on the couch, right? Not going out there and doing the PT. I have to do PT every day.
Still?
Yeah, I have to. I mean, if not, and I know that I have to do it. Like there's exercises with bands that I do. Like the kids or Heidi can put a band around that leg and hold me back, and I'm walking through the house or in the yard, just walking a lot. I have to do it. So that's, if I don't do that, I'm not facing it. I'm not.
Jerry.
Yeah, Heidi responded, "This may seem strange, but I absolutely felt energized in taking care of Todd. I know that was God giving me his strength and love."
Women are so much more resilient than we men are.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Gosh.
It's not even a fair fight.
I know.
Yeah.
We're so brittle compared to those guys. Yeah.
yeah. She never ceased to amaze me
Yeah.
with the things that she did. When I got home, I mean, we have a 2-story house. I mean, she transitioned the bedroom downstairs. She made sure the mattresses were just down floor. They were low, so it was easy for me to get around. Just
Now,
many things.
You also you work from home, so
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people thinking, well, how do you get around? How do you go to work every day? That is a blessing, right?
It's an absolute blessing. I work out of my house. I've telecommuted for quite a few years, and if I have an office job, I have a desk job. So for me to
You want to tell people what you do? You want to tell people what you do?
Yeah, I do cybersecurity work for PNC. So I do cloud security for them. I have a team, and they were also super for me. My boss at the time that I had when I was going through this was just really helpful. And
How much time away from the job during this whole process?
well, I was out for 3 weeks. But I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you. It was medicinal to get back to work.
Oh yeah,
It was medicinal. I couldn't do anything physically. It's like how much TV can you watch? How many times can you get on social media? How much I needed it. So I got back to work. I was on disability, short-term disability for I think 2 weeks or so after the surgery, after the amputation. But I got back to work. I started jumping in pretty quickly, and I did it because it was helpful.
Oh
for
yeah,
me.
it's therapeutic.
It was there. I needed to do something.
Jerry.
There's a honest, only human addition here from Heidi. I definitely want to run sometimes too. And Heidi, yep, you're a man. Woman.
Yeah, I got it. Heidi. Thank you. Now let me ask you the third part of my question. Is there a new life that has come? I mean, are you different because of all this?
Yes, I am.
How do you different from all this too? You can answer too. But.
Yeah, I am. I'm absolutely different. I think I'm more empathetic. I think I'm more sympathetic with others. I think I'm hopeful, kinder, gentler. It depends who you ask. Maybe there may be some disagreements there.
The kids, maybe. I don't know. You guys can jump in too if you want.
If Isabella's watching now, she probably is like rolling her eyes right now. Noah and Jonah, same. They might. But I think I'm more empathetic, more sympathetic. I think I'm also more focused on what's important. I'm more. I think I'm more focused. I'm a better leader at work too. I absolutely think I'm a better leader at work and being empathetic.
The cliche, don't sweat the small stuff. When you've been through, and I know with my own journey with the cancer and the heart surgery
Yeah.
and all that other stuff, and I would tell young people I work with, they'd always say, oh, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, I can't do this. I can't. Okay. You have no idea, right? That's the small stuff in life.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes we don't realize it, right? And I'm sure you probably thought of many instances where things that would really upset you before now,
Yeah.
like, really.
Yeah. Yeah. There's little inconveniences that sometimes they frustrate me, but not like they would have years ago. Right. Not like they would have. And I know sometimes that's just part of the aging process, I guess, but I still think this has something to do with it as well. Like I don't get as, whatever you want to, how you want to say, the cart spills over and it's horrible. It's not as horrible now.
So there is a new life, and that kind
Yeah.
of describes a new life. This is what kind of happens to us. There's certain depth that kind of occurs to us through all this kind of stuff.
Okay, you've laid out all the physical things, all the things that have happened to you, all the surgeries. This tumor's not coming back. This tumor's not coming back. This tumor's not coming back. I'm not making light of any of it.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to your story. Could you have done all of this without the faith that you have? And is the faith that you have now the faith you had before all of this?
I definitely could not have done this without the faith. And I sometimes struggle with saying that, not because I don't believe it. I absolutely believe it. It's just that a lot of it was a gift, right? I know I've responded at times, and there's been times I haven't responded to that gift. But I'm careful because I think sometimes we say it's my faith, my faith. It's like I did it. No, I didn't. There was a lot of graces, a lot of gifts given to me in order to increase that faith, to allow me to get through it. And so my faith is much different today than it was prior to going through this. And no, I can't imagine going through something like this without faith and without the community around me. So we talked about my wife, my family, the small group, prayer ministry, so many different folks that have reached out. And I got a card from the Pleasantville United Methodist Church, a small group of ladies that have Bible study every Wednesday, and they said they were praying for me. So those are little things like, I'm saying it's not my faith. Those are little things that increases your faith. So I would say anybody watching, please, please, please keep praying. You never know when it's going to impact somebody. You never know when you're going to help strengthen somebody's faith. So that's a long-winded answer to your question.
Yeah, and I wonder, because, and I've asked Father this too. It's like, okay, I'm going to pray for something. I prayed to win the lottery and I didn't get it, so these prayers really don't work. I mean, I think that's kind of, I'm being a little bit lighthearted, but you know what I'm saying? We pray for things, we ask for things. We want somebody who's terminally ill to somehow survive, right? We want a miracle. We pray for miracles all the time. And I've always thought of that as sometimes it's just unreal expectations. Like we're putting a lot on God there. We're saying, right? And Father, I mean, when people ask you for things like that, what's the kind of counsel and advice you give?
See, this is it. See, this is where God operates in our lives constantly, over and over again. God doesn't come to do some abracadabra and you're all better now. See you next time, and all of a sudden God and you are no longer part of anything together.
Yeah.
And this is what kind of thing it's very shallow. That's what we want. But now we're talking about this healing process that goes on with my community. I begin to see life differently. I see more sensitivity. This is it. This is the healing that we're talking about here that God does all the time. But we just keep thinking, well,
we want that
I want some voodoo, and then I won't bother you again, God, for a while. But God's like, I'm not even interested in that.
Jerry, you have one more?
Yeah, our girl
Sabrina
Mesnick, who has qualified is certainly qualified to give her opinion.
Yeah.
She said, "Your perseverance is admirable, my friend." Multiple exclamations. "Your cross has been heavy, but God truly has given you such a great strength. I've also never asked why me."
Yeah.
She said that.
That's a lot.
She said that here, that she never asked that question either. Why me?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I didn't either. When it was just like, okay. I tell this when I was first diagnosed with my cancer, and I told the nurse, I said, listen, if this turns out to be the absolute worst, I'm okay with that. My faith teaches me I'm going to be the lucky one. I'm going to touch the face of God. Now, I worried about the impact on my family, you know, and my, you know, all of that, but it never bothered me.
There's a difference between healing and cure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And God is healing us all the time.
Exactly.
We somehow want a cure, but God's interested in bigger things, I think, all the time with all this. You know, he wants us to grow up. And again, as I was saying this morning, and I'm no expert, you know, somewhere along the way, all these kinds of things have a way of helping us grow up. And the people that run from this or choose not to engage all this, I think they kind of never grow up. I mean, mature spiritually or anyway. And again, I mean, what do you guys think? Is the spiritual life optional after a while, or is it something becomes essential? If I'm really choosing to go through something like this, I think somewhere along the way, it must become essential in some path.
Have you found it that it's just that solace of being in Christ's care because I know you had dark moments. I know you did. There were times, whether you were saying, why me or not, you had a lot on your plate.
Yeah.
But you were able to reach out through that connection, I would think.
Yeah. And the dark moments, they were definitely there. There was definitely dark moments. And if I look back on it now, I think maybe that's when God was closest to me, that Jesus was closest to me. And I know I mentioned my Aunt Helen praying for me as a kid to deal with having to have injections. I was terrified of that. That prayer was answered a bit. One of the things I remember she had in her house was the 2 sets of footprints in the sand. I don't know if the two sets of footprints in the sand, where it disappears to one, and the overall it's, where were you at, God? Why did you leave me when I was at my toughest and darkest moments? And the response from God is, well, that's when I carried you. And I know that's simple and easy to say. With somebody that's in the midst of it, I would say to somebody that's in the midst of a dark moment right now, hold tight to God, hold tight to the Lord. He will always be there for you. He is there for you. And that's not easy to say. It's sometimes you're in the throes of those darkness. You just want to get the hell out of it. Let's be honest. The only thing you say is mercy. Lord, have mercy on me. Get me out of this. But I think that's when you look back and realize that's when he was the closest to me.
Mm-hmm. And the second one of those is whenever you danced.
Yeah. And
that's when we danced.
Yeah.
I heard an author, I was reading an author now, and he said it's about when God is silent. And he starts out telling beautiful stories about Jesus is being asleep in the boat. Jesus being asleep in your boat. He's there, okay, on the stormy waters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was, I know this wasn't easy because although you were encouraged, right?
Yeah.
You have a mentor who encouraged you to do this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I did.
And you still weren't sure that you wanted to do it.
I'm hard-headed like that, Mark.
So how do you feel now that you've done it? And this is probably the most public.
Right. This is definitely the most public that I've shared this story. And it's interesting. I had a friend reach out to me to do this with Catholic ministry at UPJ.
They know LaDonna. A lot of people know
LaDonna.
LaDonna.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, LaDonna McCreary reached out to me. So once that leadership coach, Art Petty, thank you, asked me to do this or challenged me to do this, another opportunity came to share this.
And then you said, I don't think I want to talk about myself. What did he say about that?
He said, get over it. It's not about you.
It truly isn't.
No,
it's not. I mean, your inspiration, what you've been through is more it's not about Todd Hillegass. It's about your walk and what you did and all of the challenges you faced. But it's not about you.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So when are you talking to the kids at UPJ?
Here in a few weeks. Yeah, in a
So
few
you
weeks.
are going to do it.
I am going to do it. Yeah, I am going to do that. Yes. Yeah, I am.
Awesome, Todd. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
So we
I
should
appreciate
sign you
having
up. We should say, is there a way to, do you have like an email address people can reach out to you and have them come
Yeah,
talk to you?
absolutely. Absolutely.
You can put it up there if you want to. His email, if you want to, you can just shout it out there. And
Heidi, you can write it in if you're.
Yeah,
on
Heidi.
there.
That's good. Heidi can write it in. That's good. That's fine. Now, I just want to do a little shout out. Now, next week,
Yep.
we're going to have Ashley Cush, a parishioner of ours who just graduated from Dayton. She's a workaday world. She's watching us now. I don't know, Ashley, where you live right now. You should write down where you live. But Ashley went to the World Youth Day in Portugal, and she came back last week or 2 weeks ago, and she's talking my ear off about it. So I said, why don't you join us and follow your faith and tell the story of her, Pope Francis, and other different things. she
So
did.
Todd, tell Ashley this isn't painful. It's just a
Not
conversation, right?
It's
You
certainly-
were all nervous before you came on, right?
Yeah, it's not painful. It's not like getting a needle, a shot.
Very nice.
Todd, thanks so much for sharing.
Thanks,
you.
everybody,
Thanks for
very
having
much
me.
for watching us
Thank you.
tonight. See you soon.